Hello and welcome to the Online Livelink Performance Suite demonstration from livelinkedexperts.com. In order to use the Performance Suite, you need an account on the system and you'll have to log in. I'm going to log in as Frank Sumi. Sumi, my name's not Frank. I would like to point out that membership is in fact free on the system, and there are a number of ways of creating an account. Follow virtually any link that says Create Account. Once you have logged in, all you have to do is click on the Tools menu and you'll be redirected to the start of the process, the Usage Profile Dataset Generation page. Now, this is a four-step wizard process. It's going to select the file options, map the columns, and then just verify the information and start processing the data. There's a lot of online help available, including some definitions of the words usage profile and other words that we might use in there. You can certainly click on them, but for us, we're just going to start the process by hitting Next. Now, what we have a choice here is to upload a new file or utilize an existing file in the system. We're going to quickly upload a file, and I want to, as we do, point out that we have some tools available to strip out all but the necessary information from your summary timings file if you're concerned about the private data that might be uploaded to the system. Just follow this link and you'll have some very quick and easy programs that run with standard Unix and or Windows software that's on your system. We're not going to do that, however. We're just going to use a standard summary timings file from our browser window, and we're going to upload that. That will go very, very quickly because it's an extremely small file. It will be pre-selected in the next page, and so we're just going to hit Next and have a look. This page essentially just verifies that you did in fact upload a summary timings file. It parses the file out, shows us the header information that's there, and the first 4 lines of the file. Assuming you've got the right file, you're probably just going to want to hit Next and move to the Map File Columns step. Now, we're only interested in 4 columns of data. In fact, we only need to have 2 columns, the functions and the time that's used. But we're going to assume that you might clean things out, you might provide this data in various ways, so you can in fact map them to a particular columns that are up there. If this is a regular summary timings file, you'll find the defaults will work out just fine. The final step of this process is to simply verify all the information you put in and perhaps give it a name, like example data set, so that you can easily see this down the road. And we'll just start processing. Now, the processing will go very quickly because there's not very much data here, and what we're presented with is the ability to create a usage profile scenario. This is the next step in the process of the Online Performance Suite, and what it does is allow us to describe both the virtual and physical environment around the data set that we just got created. Now, every Livelink solution or every Livelink system has a solution involved, whether that be something like document management, records management, email archiving, or what have you. Perhaps it's more than one system, but what we would like to see is the solution that most accurately describes your system. And this will try and map to existing words and solutions that other people have used, and we encourage you to try and find a mapping one that exists rather than create a new solution yourself. The next fields are the to and from dates that the data set was gathered. And these will be pre-filled with whatever date and times were submitted within your data set, the first and last of both. And if those data sets don't include any date and times, then you will have to put in your own. And we're hoping to see about an hour's worth of data. Next, we're going to describe the physical environments involved, and we want to know a physical description of all of the front-end servers that you might be using. And once again, this will do an auto lookup of existing entries. And we'd like to see a listing for every one of the servers in your front ends. If you have 10 servers there, then we'd like to see 10. And these are the physical computers, not the Livelink processes. We'd like to know what operating system is used. We pre-filled this with Microsoft Windows 2003 as one of the most common, but you in fact can use whatever makes sense to you. And in fact, if you whether it's a Microsoft Windows or whether it's in fact Linux or Sun. We'd like to know how much RAM is on the largest of your servers, if they're not all the same, and we'd like to know the database and database operating system you're using. And again, these are just so that we can map and compare apples to apples with the noted solutions. So we'll assume you have MS SQL 2008, and for lack of anything else, we'll assume it's on Vista. Now we've described the physical environment. We need to describe the virtual environment, like how many users are on the system, and as a percentage of those users, how many people are using the system during the busiest peak hour. And that can be whatever works for your business. We'll say it's 50 for lack of anything else. And while a user is on a system and during a session, whether that's an hour or less, how many clicks are they on average doing? And this will allow us to tell you how many threads that you're going to require. You don't need to know what clicks those are, and you don't even need to be wholly accurate here, but you should be fairly close. Then we have the burst percentage. All we're calculating so far is the average load on the system, and averages, of course, have things that are sometimes above average and sometimes below average. This is the amount of resources that you would like to be able to handle above that average for bursting. We've set it by default to 200, but that's fairly large, particularly for a session activity of 50%, so we'll probably downgrade that to something like 150. Again, not too many wrong answers here. There's a few that are not great answers, like 100 or 1,000, but there's no real wrong answer. Finally, I'll just point out that the usage profile data itself was pulled in from the data set generation we did earlier, and you can just verify what it looks in there. And in fact, if you felt like it, you could make some changes here and save it as a different task ID. We're just going to leave it alone as it sits and save this data, and you'll see that it's all been reformatted in a way that's easier to find the information, and it's produced this nice link to the thread and TPS calculator. So if we click on that, you can see that this dynamic calculator comes up with all of the information that we have just entered in our previous steps, and you can change any of this information and on the fly and see how it changes. But what we're really after is, how many threads do we need to meet average, and then how many threads do we need to meet the peak burst load. And that's pretty much it for the demonstration. It gets much more interesting when you have more data, for sure, and we hope that you enjoy this tool and find it useful in your day-to-day life. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.